And then I have to wait for that like 5-second delay because
that little good delay.
Yeah.
Ooh, from Huntington, West Virginia, East Coast. Welcome in, Denise. Glad to have you here. I didn't even think about it, but do we need to be in the other stream?
I already am, so you're good.
I'm not. Okay, but you can get me in though?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we tested it and you're able to enter it later. Yeah, I don't know why. Because and you're a guest, so it's different than like before when I was trying to get in as an admin. So that was a sneak peek of just a little behind the scenes of like Meet the Media that trickled up into the Trickle Up.
And on that note, welcome to the Trickle Up, where Mindful Skeptics, Mia goes Sunday nights, Thursday nights here with me and Shy, of course, and panel discussions often on Mondays and Tuesdays. So
yeah, and Boyce has been doing like weekly interviews too, so like definitely subscribe so you don't miss those because he.
And real talk, guys, like I'm gonna be real with you. Like the numbers don't reflect what they should, man. Like honestly, share with friends, share with like anyone who you think might be interested, because like Mindful Skeptics does a good job of connecting with people who are really tapped into some important places, and like there's relevant information coming here. So like if you think there's people who are involved in politics who would like to learn, who would like to kind of more informed, this is a place. Trickle Up and Mute the Media. So
yeah, without too much more delay, I'm gonna do the visual cue that I give to. Sorry guys, I have to move a tab over and it's hard for me to like talk and move the tab over at the same time. So I'm just gonna be honest about why I'm being awkward. Normalize just being honest when you're awkward. That's gonna be my memoir.
Transparency is a beautiful thing.
It really is. So on that note, yeah, I had to bring up my notes. I'm gonna do my visual cue so it's easier for Spider-Man, and we're gonna jump right into the first. Oh, I just remembered I have to click a few things. Because and I've got to remember to click share sound because we're going to actually start off with a video today. I know it seems like a lot of excess clicking, guys, and I apologize for that.
No need to apologize. Just producer Shy, making sure we're all set up, ready to go. Also, guys, here's the thing. When we do these things, we're going to go through a few segments. If you have any questions, comments, Q&As, leave them in the chat. And we're pretty good about kind of paying attention. We might not address them in the moment, but at the very end, we'll try and kind of talk about the big stuff. So take that for what it is.
But on that note, I'll do the visual cue and we'll get started. Okay, everyone, let's see if we can change some minds tonight. We're going to start this segment on our general strike update with a video because the original general strike, October 15th, seems to have splintered into a second movement called the Labor Movement X.
Honestly, kind of three movements.
That's right, because of the holiday strike.
But we'll expand afterwards. Yeah. We'll expand afterwards. Yeah.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. My name is Sarah Haig, and I'm the new national chair for the movement that once was the General Strike, and we are now known as Labor Movement X. There's a link down in the bio. I joined the Discord server for the movement about 2 weeks ago after seeing a lot of posts online. I've been part of the working class for 15 years, and I'm getting real tired of waiting for change, especially after the pandemic. What I found was a lot of change. A lot of people were coming in like me, and some people were stepping down after seeing kind of the scope and the attention of what this has become. It started out as just something in America, and it's gotten to be international thanks to partners like Christian Galindo Ray, who I'll link down below as well. I wanted to address some of the initial concerns. The first was the logo, which does look a lot like the Black Lives Matter Fist logo. So we have completely rebranded, and we have a new logo and a new awesome website. The second is concerns about intersectionality. Some of the comments that the excited young starters of this movement made, just from a lack of I think, knowledge, and they are definitely taking that time to learn and grow from this process of getting to see what it is like to represent a really wide, diverse group of people. And the third is that strike, as we traditionally know it, where you either leave work, don't go in, do a sit-in, is something that is not safe or accessible for everybody. So while we will be continuing the strike message, that is going to be very broadly expanded. We'll be releasing our full revised research backlist of demands tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then the next few days, we'll be rolling out our action plans for October, which include tons of different information about what unions are, how you can join, what mutual aid is, how you can get support, and how you can go on strike in a bunch of different ways that will keep you safe, but keep you involved. So if you, like me, are tired of seeing people crying in their cars about not being able to afford food and gas, our planet burning in the wake of corporate greed, rampant homelessness when it would save 3 times as much money if we just gave everybody affordable housing, people having to go back to work the week that they give birth, people sitting by their loved ones' bedsides, trading for days off and starting GoFundMe campaigns. I would love if you join us in this fight. We're looking at October 15th as our deadline, not as, the day itself. So it's either going to be a celebration of our accomplishments and coming together, or it is going to be a protest of selfishness and corporate and governmental failure. So join our Discord if you want to get involved, sign the petition, and follow our social media, and stay tuned. We're listening, and we are ready to make incredible changes with all of the excitement and support that we've had. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves.
So what were your initial thoughts? Did you want to go through anything else besides that, or did you want to kind of bounce off that real quick?
No, I was gonna say I went on their website and looked at all their stuff, and I can kind of regurgitate all that. But if you want, we can just do what back and forth of what your initial when you see that video, does it inspire you to be part of this new
100% actually, yes, because so there's been a lot of conversation in the aftermath of the announcement of what I think is actually a really positive thing. I still do, because I understand while the concerns are totally valid for the most part, I don't think all the concerns are valid, but for the most part, there's a lot of good points people have in their pushback and stuff like that. But she just addressed most, if not all of it, in my opinion. So if you're really about labor movements and you're really about your criticism, when someone comes along, takes position, takes a hold of something, and then offers you avenues to address those criticisms, if you don't follow up with that, I'm not sure your criticisms were serious. I think maybe it might have been more ego driven, honestly. So with that being said, I'll kind of leave it and let you jump in, since I know you're probably a little more well versed on the topic than I am. Not probably, you are actually.
Yeah, we discussed this obviously, but being the one who designed the segment, yeah, I did probably a little more thorough research than yourself. But so if you go to the website labormovementx.org, you see that they still have a strong stance on workers' rights, but the demands have slightly changed. Octoberstrike.com demanded a 25% corporate tax rate, free healthcare for all, 12 weeks paid parental leave, $20 minimum wage, a 4-day work week, and stricter environmental regulations on corporations. Labor Movement X has 10 demands, hence the X. And their demand is $15 minimum wage now, 100% cost of living by 2025. And, I'm going to list all of them, but I'm I really respect that they're just trying to make realistic demands.
Yes,
saying
100%.
15, but you better keep it increasing is, I think, a really good pitch. Past Medicare for all, no exceptions, 16-week parental leave, millionaire wealth tax, rent increases limited to inflation, student loan forgiveness of either 10K or 33%, 35% corporate tax rate, a carbon tax rate, and then businesses have to make public all salaries, including benefits, and then finally 1.5 overtime pay rate for all hours over 35 hours a week is what their 10 demands are.
You just hit it. So like one of the biggest issues I have with any kind of movement where you're demanding something from people who have a power dynamic is unrealistic expectations, unrealistic demands, because you're fighting two battles. Number one, you have to get the public to fucking buy into what you're saying. And the reality is, whether we like it or not, there's a lot of people who unwittingly defend the oligarchs. So number two, the demands have to be realistic in the sense that on number one, people buy in on the Main Street level, but number two, it actually gives you like tangible things the oligarchs can respond to. Because if they don't respond to realistic requests, it gives you the PR needed to step it up, turn up the notch, do more. So this list right here, whether you agree with it or not, they clearly took feedback in, they surveyed the landscape, and they try to balance both realistic demands but inclusive, like being inclusive. And so like as far as I'm concerned, like while I might, and I'm not saying I necessarily do, while I might take exception to certain things here and there, she's clearly trying to listen. She's clearly trying to research things and back it up with like smart analytical demands. And like I'm all in on this shit, man. Like, well, and like I said before the video, there's been kind of like what I call three movements now. The original strike movement, which is pretty organic. The holiday strike, which is kind of born out of people pointing out fair things and then kind of, you know, revamping into something what I would say is actually better, right? Because it addresses some of the concerns. And then this right here, Labor Movement X, right? We'll call it just X to make it easy, which is what I call the third one, where it heard all of that and it expanded upon it. So there's no reason, in my opinion, to not support both the holiday strike, which addresses a lot of the concerns of the original movement in terms of who's going to take more of the blowback, who can be more effective, right? When it comes to consumers, workers, etc. And this movement, I buy into this shit 100%. So,
Yeah, and the you know, the website for the October strike has pretty much been the same since day one, whereas this one has said by this date we're going to have this on the website, by this date we're going to have this on the website. And yesterday they were supposed to have like a major update. Now I went to the website, that they haven't updated it yet, but like I don't think that that means that this is dead in the water, right? But I love the idea that like with every few days, there's this goal to have resources. And in this case, it's like, you know, union resources, mutual aid resources, public outreach guide, and a complete action plan. And that can't be something that's easy to coordinate. So good on them for trying to do it right, you know, and like I'm intrigued to see where they go with that next update on like what the movement's supposed to be. And my takeaway is basically if something isn't working, adjust. And I don't think the way that the October strike movement was going wasn't working. It's one reason that like the holiday strike was like so many people abandoned it to like promote the holiday strike, for example.
not just, sorry to interrupt, but not just so many people, but like in the spheres, and this is anecdotal, right? But in the spheres that me and you occupy, a lot of bigger people abandoned it to support the holiday strike. So
Yes, 100%. And initially, I thought these demands were like more ambitious, but it's not that they're more ambitious as much as they're just a longer list. And like I pointed out before, like they're clearly trying to get, like it's just ridiculous. You can't go and be like, I think we should have $25 minimum wage, even though like that's what it would be right now if it was tied to inflation. But they're like, but so like, you know, we'll start with the 15. That's from 10 years ago.
Hot take. I don't actually support like a $25 like national minimum wage, because like the reality is like if you look at like the standard of living, like the salary you need like annually to like afford a 2-bedroom household in California, it's like you need to make like $39 an hour like to afford two. But like in Tennessee, you don't need to make that. So like realistically, there should be what I think the federal minimum wage should be. Whatever state, you know, you can gauge this. You look at the state who has, you know, the lower standard of living. That's your federal minimum wage, and from there you allow locales to actually address it as need be. States, districts, things like that, counties. So, but to your point, this is why I actually like their demand. Right, $25 an hour for the original strike movement. This one says 15 right now because you do need that across the board right now, and then it leaves open space to address the states like I was talking about, and that goes down the board. So to your point, having more demands doesn't necessarily mean that you're asking for more, right? If the scope of the demands are reasonable. So
Yeah, and I think that this time around they're at least giving the illusion of like better organization, which the other, it had like a vibe that like there was no face to it. So like the fact that they're like, here's a face, here's names. Like you go to the website, they have people.
I don't like that. I don't like that. I think a decentralized, faceless movement's better because it forces motherfuckers to step up and move shit. It forces
not for inspiring people though. People.
But that's the problem. But that's the problem right there. It's like I'm
looking for a leader.
I go back and forth, and here's the thing: I reserve the right to change my opinion. I'm pretty young. Who knows what I think when I'm 40? But like, I've found like inspiration is not external. 95% of the time, and that's just me throwing a number out there, but for the most part, like I can only speak for myself, but like as an athlete, as like a writer, as someone who likes like tap into expression, as someone wants to like accomplish some things in life like on a grand scale, like it's not outside noise that ever really pushed me. It was that internal motivation, that internal talk. And so if you don't like, I don't know, man, like so if you're not about like so for example, she talked about it, right? She talked about how she's been herself personally impacted by these things. She's tired of waiting. She wants to act. That's internally self-motivated. If you don't have the self-motivation to be involved, I don't think it really matters what the message is, what the demands are, what the movement is. You're not going to care because you're self-motivated. You only see your own life. So it's like, I go back and forth on that, but I think the decentralized nature of it's a good thing. Because to me, like we're at the point in time where it's like, we're on such a strict timeline. I don't give a fuck about lip service. I got to know who's about it. And if you're about it, dope, let's do it. If you're not about it, get the fuck out. Go join the MAGAs. Go join the anti-vaxxers. Go join the apolitical. Go join the people who don't give a fuck. Because like we don't have time for like your wishy-washy bullshit. So I actually like the decentralized aspect of it because like either you step up or you don't, and it's real. And like there's something, and that's why you have that organic buzz because like people who actually bought in stepped up. It wasn't like, oh, they seem credible, so I'm going to follow them, which is an entirely different thing. If you want class consciousness, ultimately it has to be organic. So
okay, yeah, I'm so tempted to push back on this and be like, but I feel like I have examples to like
do it.
You'll
push,
see it from
push back.
Okay, so like for example, if the Mute the Media TikTok was just a black screen with the text of everything that you say in your TikToks, do you think you would have the impact on inspiring people that you do right now?
No.
Okay, so that's my first thing about like people want a face. Second of all, the right has a face. It's a terrible face, and that's not like a ugly shaming. I mean, he's just like he's a monster, but they have Trump. The left does not have a face. How's the left doing, Matt? Are they doing great? Because I feel like they're doing horrible, and it's in part because they don't have an equivalent Trump. That's my pushback. That's why it's good to have a face.
Oh God, I hate it. I hate talking to you because like you're actually like intellectual and you can offer real pushback. So my first part is like that's fair, right? Like 100%. Like the point. That's kind of like the point some of us make is like whether you like it or not, you do need to tap into that pathos, right? The emotional aspect, right? And what does that come from? Usually some fiery motherfucker. It's not the ideals they lay out, right? Because to your point, people are kind of sheep. They just follow a person sometimes, right? Because like the point I brought up is like, if you look back at great movements in time, do we talk about the movement as a whole? Do we talk about their set list of goals? Or do we talk about the figurehead and the myth around them? We talk about that, right? Which is shitty, but to your point, that's the reality. But that's why I was so inspired by this myself, because there was no figurehead. And that's why I think it generates some organic buzz. It's kind of a dual thing. So fair, right? But like I always say, there's no rule that's absolute. And so while oftentimes it's good to have like that central leader, I'm not sure that a central leader pushes back against my point about needing class consciousness to be organic. Because it goes back to the thing, like I think some of the issue that communists get wrong, and take this for what it is, I'm not an expert on communism. Like I've read a few books, right? Books on communism that are pretty important to the foundation of it, but a few books nonetheless, right? I think the issue is communists don't understand, in my opinion, and this is a big claim, that you're going to need some level of like authoritarianism, force, something to like implement the society. Some do get it, right? Your vanguard communists, right? Like you see movements at the state level that do this. Fuck it. Maybe you're right. Maybe we do just need some like Trump-esque figure on the left. Do we need a Trump on the left? Is that the takeaway from this?
Well, like this is going to sound weird, but I'm like, I don't think that there's a problem in a society with a dictator if the dictator is inherently good. Now that's never going to exist. But that's the key. Is like, yeah, we need someone who's close to inherently good who.
So what you're saying is the system of government does not matter if the leadership structure is sound.
Yes. Well, and by sound, if you mean, yeah, as close as you can get.
More good, far more. Yeah. Well, you're not wrong. So if you had, you're not wrong. Name it: oligarch, democracy of some type, representative, direct, feudalism, right? Monarchy, direct fucking dictatorship, to your point, if the leadership structure actually gives a fuck, it doesn't matter because they're going to make sound decisions for the people.
100%. Yeah, it does not matter what the structure. I mean, like even capitalism would not be what it is if the people in power were inherently good. They are far from it.
But I give one caveat. The issue is certain structures don't allow you to move to the next generation as well as others, which is the problem. So.
But yeah, and then obviously the only other like pushback I have on this movement is of like they had 10 demands and like they need an 11th. They need to do universal basic income because raising the wage is only going to help those who are traditionally employed.
You know what I would say keep the list, but on minimum wage, add that into that. Like, you know, they have like the just say right there, and in super parentheses, UBI would be ideal. Just saying, like you know, something to that effect, because like I don't like consider myself a UBI expert. I'm pretty new to the scene on being in support of UBI. And I'll be honest, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's fucking crazy. But the reality is, like, there's a lot of people who support UBI on the left, the right, and the middle. And even people who don't support the idea because they, like, you know, respect people, they recognize the signs and they see what's coming. And even people who don't like the idea of just, you know, creating a society like where people have dignity, they don't like that because they're like venture capitalists and shit like that. Even the Elon Musks of the world understand the necessity for this if you want like the automation and shit to somehow not totally alienate your society and bring it into collapse. So 2 things. If you're a moral person, you should support UBI. If you're not a moral person, just look at the logistics of capitalism as it stands right now, and you should support UBI. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was going to say, let us know in the comments if you support UBI.
And if you don't let us know. Just go learn.
I think that's as good as time as any because that's kind of a longer segment. And I'm not sure how much if Boyce would like want to cut out the part where you were like, it's good that it didn't have a face. And then we like pivoted for a second. But I thought that was interesting.
I mean, sometimes I self-talk and like, right.
Yeah, so this one will be probably easier to get through because I don't actually have like visual cues to go through it. But I thought we'd do a bit of an update on, you know, COVID stories, but not so much on like deaths and despair, as much as it's just like loopholes and how you can rage against the DeSantis's of the world.
And before we dive into this segment, because Shai's going to kind of go through just some important things as it relates to the segment. I'm going to say this right now. If you're not willing to flip the board, right, in the sense that a lot of conservatives, Republicans seem to be willing to as it goes forward, then to Shai's point right there, like you said, you have to find loopholes. You have to find ways to use the system against itself because nothing's absolute. Even the most oppressive system has a flaw that you can expose. So to that end.
Okay, everyone, let's see if we can change some minds tonight. So every week now, Matt and I have been doing some kind of story on COVID, and normally we are talking about the death numbers or how dangerous it is for certain groups. And recently we covered just how disturbing it is that we don't seem to be doing enough to protect the youth, who is disproportionately more affected by the Delta variant than anything that existed within the realm of COVID last year. And so recently, the Texas governor tested positive for COVID-19. And if you're not familiar with Governor Abbott, he's very anti-science and protecting children when it comes to COVID and has banned mask mandates in public schools in his state.
Wait a second. I'm going to sound a little ableist here, but I don't care because I do think that sometimes people deserve the shot they take. So you mean the guy who like lives a life of somewhat luxury because of the science afforded his position, given some of his disabilities, doesn't actually like science when it applies to other people, just himself, because he's had both the vaccines. He had a booster, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So someone who has his own personal issues is totally willing to take advantage of the healthcare, the science, the medicine available, but his messaging tells you not to. You do with that what you want to.
I can't confirm whether or not he's had a booster because I don't think anyone can have a booster until it's officially approved, and which is not supposed to happen until next month. But what you might be thinking of is that he's had, is it Regeneron? Is that what I'm trying to say? Yes. and which is, I think, what the former president Trump had when he got COVID. And it's amazing where if you're super privileged, how you just have access to this modern medicine that your average civilian doesn't, how something as dangerous as COVID is not going to be a problem.
I'm going to push back a bit. There's reports from like HoustonPress.com that Abbott told people personally he got a third booster ahead of time.
Oh, see, that's me needing to dig a little bit deeper when I was researching this story. See, that's why there's two of us, guys, so that you get like the full picture.
And I want to say the Houston Press is like saying this is like alleged. They're just going off of what people who are unnamed close to Abbott said he said. So to Shai's point, like Shai is more responsible than I am. So like she's going to report strict hard facts. I'm like, yo, this is alleged. I'll use the right language. I'm just saying Houston Press is running with this right now. So take it for what it is.
So, yeah, kind of, there's a lot of irony in the story. So the leadership in Texas is dangerous to his constituents. And so a Texas school district added masks to their dress code. And as a result, they can override his executive order of like, you can't make kids wear a mask. And I think that that's beautiful. And that's coming from someone who's very anti-dress code, because a lot of school dress codes are geared towards and encouraging harassment towards women.
Yeah, and straight up. It's straight up like, it's straight up misogynistic. It's straight up sexist. It is straight up, oh, little boys can't control themselves, so women have to cover up. A little Taliban-esque, one might say.
So, yeah, I mean, I can understand when they're like, a teenager can't come in with like a Budweiser shirt. I have no problem with that. I don't get like no hats indoors. I think that's like way
too
cool.
Why can't a 17-year-old wear a Budweiser shirt? He's about to go fight in the fucking military in a year. I don't even care. I honestly, it's kind of facetious. She's right. Like obviously age appropriate shit matters, but like a spaghetti strap, like really, like
yeah, exactly. Or like even just the exposure of a woman's a child's undergarment is like, that's not appropriate for schools to even comment on.
Men sexualizing kids to make policy is fucked up.
Yeah. So like in this case, this school district is like, you can't show your midriff. And they're also like, you can't show the lower half of your face. And I endorse one of those. Because plus it's the state of Texas. Like I've lived in Texas before. Like it's hot year round. Like, yeah.
It's hot and humid sometimes. Like it's not just a dry heat. Like in Cali here, it's usually like a dry heat. It's like I'm in like 916 Sac County area. So like when it gets like peak heat, 110, like when it's peak, but it's dry, right? But like 95, 100 with like.
Yeah. The point is, I mean, like it's not inappropriate for a girl, again, a minor.
A human being, a minor,
pick out an
human
outfit.
minor.
Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't say girl because like anyone can show their midriff. And like I assume the dress code is for everyone. So yeah, shorter shirts might be relevant in hotter climates. That's
it's not for everyone though. I was a soccer player. I wore soccer shorts a lot of the time because I don't give a fuck. Like I don't care. You know, so like I'll just be straight. This is kind of anecdotal, but a lot of boys and men are kind of like they don't want to wear like short shorts or something because like so for example, like basketball players in my era growing up like the early 2000s wore like hella long baggy shorts like below the knees. I'm a soccer player, like I said. I wore those short shorts. The school never said anything about my shorts not being like the proper thigh high or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And for the girls, it's like knee high, right? A little bit of a knee and shit like that. So.
Yeah, no. When I was in high school, they had relatively strict. What am I trying to say here? Dress codes for girls in dresses and skirts, but it was expected if it was a home game, the cheerleaders should wear their uniform all day long. So it would be the dead of winter, and you would have girls who they'd be wearing like a flannel up here, and then their coat would be dripped over their bare legs because they were freezing. And their cheerleading outfit, uniform, which for anyone who doesn't know is significantly shorter than what the dress code was for a skirt or dress. So yeah, but you know, team spirit
in high school football brings in money.
And it all comes back to like not funding the education system correctly. So yeah, and pivoting back to
so to be really vulgar, because I know you want to get back to the point. So basically, high schools are pimping out your fucking daughters because they don't want to pay for education.
That should be a meme because I think it's 100% accurate. And so at least 21 Texas school districts have vowed to defy the governor and require masks. Now, whether or not they're going to have the same exact loopholes, the articles didn't say, but good on them. I hope that number grows. And I encourage any school districts in Florida to do the same because their governor has not only banned mask mandates, but has threatened to defund any school districts that requires them, which, as far as I can tell, is not technically legal. I think that there is a loophole if you are willing to jump through enough hoops. So, and then pivoting from school districts, just a friendly reminder that your rights are not infringed on if a private business requires you to wear masks, requires their employees to wear masks, or even provide proof of vaccination.
Can we just talk about two things real quick? I thought I was done, but I wasn't done apparently. So two things on that note. Number one, HIPAA applies to fucking medical, like people who are actually like in the practice of medicine. It does not apply to a fucking private business, which absolutely has the right to mandate vaccines should they choose. I'm not saying I agree with it or not, but that's their right. And here's the fucking irony of it. About 7 days ago, Indiana University students challenged the vaccine mandate. And guess what happened? They got to the Supreme Court, and Miss Barrett, you might remember she's put in there by Trump, she cited the Baker case from Florida saying that, nope, universities can mandate this. The irony was too deep. Wait, you mean a Trump fucking nominee citing the gay Baker case? That's what I'll call it, the gay Baker case, just to make it easy, right? We had a Christian baker who didn't want to make specific cakes for people, like for gay people in their wedding, and that was ruled okay. So Trump's nominee cited that court case and said, nope, you got to get your vaccine if you want to go to school.
Yeah, no, I was like, I wonder if she has any children in college, but good on her. Good on her. And then finally, this is really cool. Like, you don't have to find loopholes if you just have good leadership. And yesterday, Washington's Governor Jay Inslee announced that all public school staff will be required to be fully vaccinated. Everyone from the bus drivers to the volunteers to the coaches and the teachers, of course, have to have, I'm sure there's exceptions for people who literally cannot get the vaccine, but like, just because I'm like, I don't want people to say, if you talk in absolutes, people are going to get upset. But yeah, so I feel like the answer is to saving us from this pandemic is loopholes in poorly led areas and better leadership overall. So, 2022 is right around the corner. And there's a lot of people who don't have your best interest in mind. So vote them all out.
I got nothing else to add to that. I think that wraps it up pretty well.
Yeah. And it's just because I've been talking way too much.
That's not true. I'm going to push back on that. So I'm just going to say it right now. Producer Shy, aka Cheyanne for UBI, aka all their handles, she's awesome because she doesn't talk a lot because she's accommodating. It's not because she doesn't have great takes. She just lets all of us blabbermouths just run amok, and she's a nice person. Actually, that's not the right word. She's a kind person who accommodates space. You have great takes. You're just respectful. And you let us all just fucking shout.
Yes. Thank you. I'm trying to be humble. Thank you. But where's the lie? He's not wrong. But yeah. I will do the little, okay, let's see if we can change some minds, and then I will throw it over to you to give us an update on what's going on with Afghanistan. And then I have and then once you kind of give us this like a recap or whatever, then I'm going to
list of resources. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, let's see if we can change some minds tonight. Matt, I would like you to start us off with an update on the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan.
So the ultimate update, guys, is going to be the end part, which is the most important aspect of this, because producer Shy here is going to give us actual tangible things we can do to help the situation if we should so choose, and we should. That being said, I'll be honest, I'm not sure like if I was like dictator Matt right now, I'm not sure what the answer is right now. But to kind of give you what I think is an important, I'll just go through a really brief timeline and take us to where we stand today. All right. And this is really brief, really general. Of course, you can kind of pick this apart and add nuance to it, but I'm gonna go through a quick timeline as I know it. And I repeat, as I know it, because the reality is, like, I'm not from Afghanistan, right? I haven't lived that myself. So I've taken this from listening to people from Afghanistan, what I think are reputable media, listening to soldiers who've been there. And so take this for what it is, right? But once upon a time, we'll say about 1980, we know that the Soviet Union tried to go into Afghanistan and shape things there, right? In that process, we know the United States of America, going through the Cold War with the Soviet Union, the aftermath of World War II, was always at that position, right? Always trying to push back against that. Always trying to push back against Soviet communist socialist influence on any population because it runs against capitalism. So while the Soviets were invading Afghanistan, the United States government, the Saudi government, and the Pakistan government helped fund, train, and arm what we would call various mujahideen groups, all right? The mujahideen of Afghanistan. Not to be confused with the mujahideen of Iran, all right? Two different groups. So the mujahideen of Afghanistan are various groups from various different areas, you know, factions, lands in Afghanistan that came together to fight the Soviets. In the aftermath of removing the Soviets from their land, there was a civil war, right? Some of the groups came together to form what was a Afghan national government in a sense. And a lot of groups didn't like that. They wanted power for themselves, things like that. So there was a civil war. Around 1994 is when the Taliban, as we know them, show up. The Taliban comes from a few different mujahideen groups, which again, the United States of America, Saudi Arabia, and mainly Pakistan helped fund, arm, and train. All right. So we helped create some of these groups indirectly at minimum. By 1996, the Taliban had taken control of Afghanistan. Okay. And they had a run atop that country from 96 to 2001. And at their peak, they had about 90% control of the country. All right. There was a northern kind of region with various kind of warlords and stuff, different mujahideen groups themselves, things like that, who resisted the Taliban. Most of those regions fell except for one, which was led by Ahmed Shah Massoud. Okay. And a really weird kind of twist of fate type of thing. I'm not sure if these are connected or not. He was actually assassinated by Al-Qaeda, which was, of course, given safe haven by the Taliban 2 days before 9/11. So on September 9th, 2001, he was assassinated. His significance is he was the last region to hold out within the Taliban. And in his region, there were things like women's rights to some extent, right? He believed that women just have to be fully covered, education, things like that. His war record was much better than the Taliban and different groups like that. So he's actually an Afghan hero. They have a day dedicated to him. He's a hero. Like, this is a good man. Like, this is someone who fought an empire, right? Was a part of the Civil War, tried to help his people. He really gave a fuck about Afghanistan. Now, that's an important aspect right there. The United States of America, when they go into these places, they don't prop up leadership that gives a fuck about the Afghan people. They prop up leadership that gives a fuck about American interests as it relates to resources, who are willing to be power brokers for what we want to do. So when people are saying, oh, the Afghan government folded, they don't care, he ran away. This man didn't care about the Afghan people. He cared about lining his pockets. He saw an opportunity to take advantage, and he did. We don't support the people who actually support the country. And I'll go back to my own personal experience. The United States of America can talk a great talk about freedom, democracy, and things of that nature, but we don't support the people pushing for freedom in Iran, right? The actual resistance, we've labeled them terrorists, things like that at various points, and they had to sue and fight for their freedom and to get off that list. We've supported bad entities who push our interests, all right? So long story short, the reality of Afghanistan is for the last 20 years, we weren't there for the right reasons. We were there to take out people who harmed us because Afghanistan had become a hotbed for terrorist training and things like that, right? The Taliban had from those 5 years span, right? They allowed Al-Qaeda, different groups in there to kind of train things like that. But we were there to take out terrorists who harmed us that we helped create, right? And to exploit natural resources. So where we stand today, after that 20-year span, it's not fair to say we did nothing there. Like, the soldiers, they did good work, actually. And you know me, I'm not pro-military. I'm not pro-soldier, which are two different things. Because if you look at the class issues and the systemic issues, the military targets socioeconomic, like people who are in like lower positions, things like that within our economy, right? So like they're taken advantage of too. But the reality is soldiers actually did a good thing in this scenario. While I'll rail against U.S. imperialism is not worse than the Taliban. It might have created the Taliban, so like we can have that kind of nuanced debate about what's worse, but when it comes to the direct impact of like United States forces and like the United States government versus the Taliban themselves, it's not the same. Like these are some of the worst people you will ever come across in life. And the reality is if we withdraw, and we have, so like I'm not like, it is what it is, you allow the Taliban to descend upon 30 million people. Whatever your take is on economies, on foreign policy, on the world, on the US empire, the reality is our withdrawal allows the Taliban to descend on 30 million people. And where we stand today is the Taliban have taken control of every major city. They have control of major infrastructure. Every region but that one up north we talked about earlier has been taken over by the Taliban. And what I find interesting is I think the latest news coming out of Afghanistan that's relevant is the son of Ahmed Shah Massoud has taken up leadership in that region and has said all they need is U.S. support and they will take up the fight against the Taliban. So the reality is the White House just said we still have 80,000 people to evacuate. 80,000 people still to evacuate. Like, let that sink in given what just happened in the last 8 months. We still have 80,000 people to evacuate. And this is not all on Joe Biden. We went from having tens of thousands, about 20,000 troops in that country to 2,500 because of Trump's negotiation with the Taliban that did not include the Afghan government. I repeat, the Trump administration negotiated with the Taliban without the Afghan government. And like, we wonder why they folded. They weren't a part of this negotiation. They expected support, and we withdrew support and allowed the Taliban to descend upon them. Because what happened once we negotiated with the Taliban, Shai? U.S. casualties at the hands of the Taliban dropped dramatically to the point where it was almost zero. What happened to the Afghan people? Casualties increased. The Afghan people are victims of the Taliban. The Afghan people are victims of the U.S. empire. The Afghan people are victims of the Soviet empire. So, I don't know. I could ramble on this forever because there's lots of like random shit I'm thinking about adding to it as I go, but I'll just kind of leave it there for now. I think I hit the main points.
Yeah, and it's not enough to just be like, let's make an opinion about this. Like, actually, American civilians can do something. And I think that it shouldn't be like a question of like, as Americans, what should we do? It should just be like, as humans, what can we do for this other group, for this other humans? Like, there's no reason to even bring the imaginary lines that create borders and countries into the equation. But 16 members of Congress penned a letter to President Biden stating, all that should matter now is our moral obligation and strategic interest to help those who helped us and to stand by the Afghans who bet their lives on the future we promised. And there's 435 people in Congress. So like the fact that only 16 people have signed on to this idea that like we have a moral obligation as humans to like not abandon the Afghan civilians is the sentiment that they all should have. So write and call your congressperson. Additionally, there are various organizations, among them, working to help people fleeing Afghanistan is No One Left Behind. And at the end of this, I will provide links for all of these to make it easier for you guys to find. And they will be in the description as well. And this organization is helping people who are fleeing and people who are still over there and like their lives are in immediate danger. And then for the refugees who actually do make it to America, we have the Refugee Council USA. Sorry, guys, my slides are out of order there. So, and they're working with a lot of local organizations to place the recently displaced individuals and families from Afghanistan. And like one said organization is the Women for Afghan Women, which is a grassroots civil society organization dedicated to protecting and promoting the rights of disenfranchised Afghan women and girls in Afghanistan and here in New York. And I think it's important too to note that in addition to the Afghan civilians, that you should really check on your Afghanistan veteran friends and family right now. Because reports of veterans' helplines have increased since we pulled out of Afghanistan, but not only in America, but abroad as well.
On that note, just to jump in, guys, so this is why I have to separate U.S. imperialism from the soldiers on the ground. They really, like, here's the thing, whether we, like, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, take it for what it is, as I've gotten older, my views on 9/11 have really changed. When I saw that as a 9-year-old, it seared into my brain. That day seared into my brain. Adults' reactions, news reaction, like teachers' reactions, everything. I'm not going to forget that day in the aftermath of it, right? Because that's just a fundamental thing that happened in my childhood that has shaped part of my views on the world, right? As I've gotten older, more and more, that tragedy seems kind of like you get what you put out into the world. And that's a really ugly thing because the people who were harmed that day did not deserve that. They were innocent people who had nothing to do with all of this. But the people who harmed them, they've been harmed themselves by us. And again, I'm not saying that's right because it's not. Like, being hurt doesn't give you a right to go do things like that. But it should provide some level of understanding whether you like it or not, right? When you are an empire that goes and plays in people's backyards, someone's going to respond to that. Whether you like it or not, whether it's right or not, whether it's fair or not, that is the reality of life. If you push, someone's going to push back eventually. And so the soldiers who respond to that, right, we got hurt, we got attacked, they responded to that. They went into Afghanistan and they helped bring water to people. They helped bring electricity to people. They helped defend people against worse things. We also did bad things in Afghanistan. I'm not going to lie, right? War is not perfect. Even the most righteous war is going to have, collateral and negativity that results from the good side, even, we can call it. And I'm not saying we're the good side because, again, we probably shouldn't have been there to begin with, but that's irrelevant, right? Let's say we're the bad guys. Sometimes you land somewhere and you find worse guys. And that's what happened, man. The Taliban are worse than us. I don't really care what anyone says. I'll be the first to call us out for what we are. But the Taliban are an incredibly brutal, repressive, conservative, religious group that does not respect anything beyond their dogmatic way of life. So I don't think it's right to disparage soldiers who were actually fighting against what I would consider like evil, who in their minds were defending the country and really trying to bring something better to these people. Aim your negativity towards leadership, towards corporations, towards the businesses, and towards the government that facilitated this, lied to this, and profited off of this.
That just seemed like a powerful ending, so. You're muted suddenly.
Actually, it was probably a good thing I used a personal name. Bryce, appreciate you being here. Mackley, of course, appreciate you being here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate all you guys sticking around and watching us the last almost 50 minutes. Unfortunately, Matt and I have to run because we have a stream already happening that we need to join over on the Mute the Media YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Mute the Media.
So on that note, make sure you tune in Sundays, Thursdays, other days during the week where there's panels and discussions and news segments from the Trickle Up, Sundays especially with Mia and Boyce, the main show here at the Trickle Up. But you should follow us over to Mute the Media on YouTube after we finish up here. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, and there wasn't any like major news in the basic income realm, so we didn't do a basic income segment, but just a friendly reminder, you guys can always go to crowdfundbasicincome.org if you want to like start making a difference in providing a basic income for someone right now before it gets legislated, something that probably will be another decade away.
And can't be.
Because some people don't have that decade. But yeah, on that note, Matt, I think we can end the broadcast. Thanks for watching, everyone.